In the mix. The biggest station in the world. Playing all of today's hits. You're listening to Instinct Radio.
Don't go nowhere.
For sure.
Welcome back, Sanctuary family. You're live once again here at Instinct Radio Studios. I'm your host, Shekema Silveri, and I have with me again my uncle, Bishop H.P. Johnson, and Deacon Larry Dorsey. And actually Deacon Moore is over there doing. Hey, Deacon Moore. How you doing, Deacon Moore? Regina Sunshine's probably babysitting Deacon Moore, but she laughing at him, so she can't even. No, baby, don't get Deacon Moore no mic. And so these are the men of Mount Pisgah, First Mount Pisgah Baptist Church, and so I'm just delighted to have my manhood circle around me today. It's a pleasure, and so I asked you guys to think about before we went on the break, given the current culture that we see with manhood, what does that mean for male-female relationships and marriage and raising kids? What do you think about it?
Well,
is that a hard question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Not, it would be a lot easier if our men understood who they supposed to be.
Okay.
You can even nature teaches male and female.
Yep.
But there's too many of our men that have gone the other way.
Okay.
And the woman says, well, ain't no men, so I just go with another woman.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's been in our culture. And unfortunately, they're teaching our babies it's all right. So a woman that's hoping to find a husband, the task is very, very hard now, because a lot of the men, if a woman don't have a good paying job, got her own home or whatever, they don't want to be bothered with her. They want somebody to babysit them and take care of them and raise them and whatever else the case may be. They don't want to be a man. They don't want to take on responsibilities.
Wow.
So it's hard, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible.
You know?
And to add on to what Bishop said, and this just came up across my mind, a lot of the stuff like with these, I like to call them, these sorry jokers out here, a lot of it start at home.
Okay.
And I'm just going to be honest. A lot start with some of these mamas.
Okay.
They, I know it's hard for a woman to raise a man, but I think, but they baby them too much. They do this, they do that. Living with mama till you're 25 and 30-year-old don't help the situation either. And they go out here to these women, they looking for the woman to be mama, to support you, to take care of you. And I think that's really one of the biggest problems. And like Bishop said, you got half the men out here want to wear skirts. That ain't helping nothing. And you looking at the women, I've heard crazy stories. I call them cop-outs. Girls, well, I'm not messing with no man. Man be beating on me. I said, okay, you with the wrong man. Okay, so what's gonna happen when that woman beat on you? You ain't nothing left. You went from a man to a woman, but go ahead, Bishop.
And our penal system, there's so many of our
That has a lot to do.
young men that's incarcerated.
Yep.
And a lot of it unjustly, because the fact that when they go into the courts, they don't get equal consideration from our white counterpart, and they might do the same crime, but the black man would get 40 years.
It bothers me.
And the other get, like a slap on the wrist.
And one that stick out to me, if I know everybody done heard about that swimmer out there in California, but I don't know a lot of people. Everybody know I'm a big football junkie. But guy Brian Banks spent 5 years in prison for a rape that he didn't commit. You got the white swimmer in California.
Right.
Not only get 6 months, but get out 3 months early. So how are we supposed to react to that? You got an innocent guy, 5 years, for something that he was lied on. Never happened. Didn't know the lady. But, you know, like Bishop said, you know, it's kind of, that's what we face with now, you know.
So what do we do? And I just want to say as a church, because we can't be responsible for everything.
Exactly.
But as a church, we're all here members of a church. What can we do as a body of Christ to help?
Wow.
That's a.
You know, I want to say we can pray more. But
I
gotta
think it's a
be
little
some
bit more
action.
than that.
It gotta
I
be
think it's a
some-
little bit more than that. Like you said, Bishop, sometimes, you know, you got to put actions speak louder than words.
Action. It
You
got
know,
something. But the churches need to come together.
Yeah.
You understand?
I heard a video by Farrakhan, and it kind of, he was saying that the reason why there's so many more women in church than men is because Jesus is the only real example of a man most of these women have ever seen. And so they go to church because they're continuing to look for this example of a man. And Christ, for a lot of women, is the only real male that they've ever seen.
I
The characteristics of a
agree with
man.
I can understand
And
that.
then he said, what happens is you have these pastors who basically pimp this male persona. So, for instance, if you're a strong man and you're a strong man, and these women have never seen it before, they're gonna come in and gravitate towards you because they're you show them something that they've never seen before. And so he was just saying that they feed these women exactly what it is they're looking for without ever taking the time to build up the other men in the community to make sure those other men are also modeling Christ's behavior. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good analysis of what the men in the street. You know, ministry is not inside the building.
That's right.
Yeah.
Ministry is in the street. Jesus said, when I was hungry, you didn't feed me. When I was naked, you didn't clothe me. When I was in prison, you didn't visit me. It's time for us to take action. Even we're a small church, but we can still go and do street ministry.
Yeah.
If we don't get but one to turn his life around, it'll be well worth it. So I think that's something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
And we, you know, when we had the women's conference, I know Bishop, one of the things that we said was that we need to do the same thing with men. We really need to have like
A
manhood
man
classes
thing,
and
yes,
stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like we really need to have these things that teach.
We do.
Almost like a rites of passage to help young men transition from boyhood to manhood.
Right.
Because there's nothing like that.
Right.
You know, and I know as a woman we have our own issues, but I know that's if you want to keep men involved in the church, it's got to be something that shows him something different than what he sees every day.
And like you said, we do, because like you said, it's our job to go get the men. They not gonna come, like you said, but to change the image that we have in church, you know, for one thing, it don't matter where you come from, it no matter how you dress, no matter what you've been through, no matter what you smoking, no matter what you drinking, you know, we been there. Everybody been there. And what I hear a lot is, that's why I tell people all the time, well, I'm gonna come to church when I get right. I said, my brother, you'll never get right.
That's right. We all struggle.
Exactly. I said, I'm messed up now, and I'm here. I said, you come on, but like you said, I think we have to go out and get them because they not gonna come. Like
and
you
a lot
said.
of times people are more worried about what they have to give up.
Exactly.
You know, you have to understand that walking with him requires surrender.
Right.
And it's a gradual process.
Right.
You know, you're not gonna have to lay down everything at the
Right,
same time. You just
right.
have to have this willingness to say that, Lord, I want to be better.
Yeah.
But it requires surrender. And I
hey,
think a lot of people, we're not
it-
gonna say
it
that people
do.
don't count the cost. They count
Oh
the
yeah,
cost
you
and
have
they
to.
don't pay it.
You have to. You lose.
Yeah.
I know. I've learned the last 10, 11 years. You lose friends. You lose family members.
Yeah.
You lose a lot of stuff. And when you out there in the world, let's just be honest. Like Bishop say all the time, you enjoyed sinning.
You did. It was good.
It was real good.
Yeah.
It was real good.
They act like sinning was wrong.
Exactly.
Like, look,
Yeah,
you felt like
You didn't want to get that up.
fun, boo.
Think about it.
You
go
enjoyed
to,
it.
Every now and then I think about it.
You gotta go to church. So you gotta go to church. You're like, man, boy, doing you do. You had a good time.
You did.
I'm not gonna lie. You had a real good time. Sometimes I sit back and think, smile sometime and be like, Lord help me.
did that, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. And people don't want to give that up. And like you say, you can't straddle the fence. It's either or. You have to. And I tell people, we all been there. Shoot, that's why I tell people now. But on this journey, sacrifice, man.
And it's
sacrifice.
crawl, walk, then run.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Give up let him do his work.
Right.
And that's the thing. as a church, we have set it up such that we tell people that if you love God, then you will stop doing all these things. If you love God, then you will give up all these things. But it's clear that the word says it's God who He gives you the power
to do that,
to willing to do what pleases Him. You don't do it on your own.
Exactly.
It's Him that's working in you. And so when we make people feel like you can't serve God if you don't do it, it's Him anyway.
He said, "Come unto me, all ye that are burdened and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." And I think that there are so many people that's hurting, and a lot of them are hurting because they've gone into some churches that they were rejected
or abused,
looked down on because they weren't dressed, the certain way.
You didn't act a certain way.
Right.
It happens.
Thank God, Mount Pisgah is a place, and I thank God that you just come.
Yep.
If you ain't got on no long pants, we'll wrap you up in a sheet.
We'll put you in a sheet.
It's real.
Like,
and we'll love you just the same.
We'll love you. We'll love on you, and a lot of people need that.
Exactly.
We all do.
And that's one thing that you've been teaching on. That love thing. Yes. I sit back and laugh. I might be at work and you might come up on my mind. I go to laughing, and you might be like, "Stop being mean." You know what I'm saying?
Don't tell Bay that because Bay said I'm mean to him. But I'm not.
But I sit back. This love thing, this transformation that our church been on, it's a powerful thing. Powerful. I've never considered myself a mean person, but I might not be the friendliest person. But I keep to myself. And if you wrong me, it was hard for me to forgive you. I was the type of person, I'm with you 100%, but you wrong me, don't talk to me, don't say nothing else to me. But I've learned that over these last 6-7 months, you've been teaching on love, that we got a lot to learn, and I tell you, I sit back, I might be riding and just start laughing and be like, I was about to get mad, and I'd be like, you know what?
What would Rev say?
Exactly. I go. I'm like, I leave it alone. I be like, man, I'm better than this, and just keep on going.
So see, Sanctuary family, I do actually, I do serve at church.
But you just have to realize that, and it took me a long time to, like I said, I've been out here a long time, and I have now understand. It took me a long time to understand what love really means.
Man, I know.
To be able to deny yourself.
That's so good.
Forget about self and help somebody else.
So
man,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it's
and
about.
and kind of what you said in Sunday school a few Sundays ago, and it kind of stuck with me when she told us, it might just be your job to hurt. You might that person might just have to hurt. You might just be there to get hurt for that person's well-being and their growth.
Right.
And that kind of stuck with me. I'm like, well, why I gotta get hurt? What I do? And you sit back and think about Jesus, and
there you go.
Once you that come across your mind,
what
I'm all right with that. I sit back. I'm all right with that.
I preached a sermon one time called "The Ultimate Sacrifice," and we talk about when Jesus was in the garden and how he was crying out to his Father, and a lot of people think that he's just crying out because he was afraid, but he wasn't afraid of dying because he knew he would rise that third day. Right. But it was the fact that once he accepted the task that God had given him, that he had to give up his sonship and his virtue. Yep. He had to become sin. And he died. He became what he hated to save that which he loved.
Exactly.
That's good.
The ultimate sacrifice. It don't get no better than that. No. Don't get no better than that, because you sit back and be like,
Look at yourself and think about all the stuff you've done.
Just put yourself, be like, I look at me now and be like, I wouldn't die for me. It make you think, you know what I'm saying?
So guys, Bishop, you mentioned something about the women and how a lot of women's wounds come from like a lot of women look at the way men are, and they're like, well, I'd rather just be with a woman. So I, that immediately brought to mind this young lady. She's a minister. Her name is Jackie Hill Perry. And this is a part of her testimony. But I wanted to show this to the audience, and I want you guys to really pay attention to this. She has given her life to Christ, and she's a minister now. And so, Jack, if you could just show us this video. This is Minister Jackie Hill Perry out of Chicago.
Well before I explored life as a lesbian, my idea of gender roles was quite convoluted, to say the least. Growing up fatherless caused me to believe a few things about men. One, I believed that they were inconsistent, that they said things that they did not truly believe. I came to this conclusion by way of experience. Having my father tell me that he loved me one day and yet be absent for years at a time led me to this idea. I also believe that men had the capacity to break women at will, with no foreseen consequence except a pain that they could not feel nor empathize with. They could only be its cause. These thoughts about men were in constant juxtaposition with my experience with women. My mother was as consistent as the morning. She loved me not only in speech, but equally in deed. Her, along with the many women in my life, made me feel safe, while men were simply a danger to my being, or so I thought. Consequently, my perception of maleness completely affected my view of what it meant to be a woman. If men were strong, then women were weak. If men are leaders, then women were obviously only useful as helpers with bodies only adequate for keeping their men warm at night. I thought such vulnerability was to be despised and rejected. This logic, in correlation with an innate sin nature and same-sex attraction, led me into a lifestyle of lesbianism in which I endlessly pursued masculinity. From my hair to the clothes that I wore, they were all a means of projecting a gender different than the one given to me by God. I did not see femininity as good, nor womanhood. I believed my biology to be the cause or avenue that made me susceptible to pain, so the only alternative was to be like a man. In my relationships with women, I was the leader. I was the dominant voice, and I enjoyed it. But now I see that I was seeking liberation by way of slavery, confusing pride with freedom, walking in the same blindness Eve was confronted with when she believed that being outside of God's will and his design would make her happy. At the age of 19, during my quest for autonomy, I was not left to discover the destruction that awaited me. Instead, I was met by a gracious God who broke in and turned my heart towards him in repentance and faith. The awareness of the absolute and utterly majestic worthiness of Christ could only but make surrender impulsive. How can one meet God and not give him everything, including my mind? After all, that was home to the ideas that motivated much of my bondage, particularly my ideas about gender. When I came to the faith, I had to relearn what it meant to be a woman again. I had spent so much time mimicking what I thought to be masculinity that it was a process to embody what it meant to be me. The first few years of my walk with Christ were not met with much tension in regard to relearning femininity until I began dating my now husband, Preston. Prior to our courtship, he was my friend, a friend that was safe. Once our friendship became a pursuit, he instantaneously became my enemy. His wanting to know me registered in my mind as him gaining access to areas that had felt pain before. But I don't think that my initial resistance to embracing Preston's pursuit was fully based on my fear of pain. I think my resistance was equally rooted in my fear of losing control. My ego did not like the idea of losing its rights, but to love Preston well, to love him in a way that it would exalt the beauty of God meant that I not only had to die to my fears, but I had to die to my pride. Our relationship unearthed the lies I had believed about gender roles that were not uprooted at conversion, but instead lay dormant due to lack of friction. But God, being as gracious as the sky is blue, surrounded me with godly women and men who walk with me and help me embrace truth with joy. They help me see Christ in my womanhood. Instead of isolating my gender from God's character, I had to see that the submission that God was calling me to as a woman was a means to mirror not only the church's submission to Christ, but also Christ's submissions to his Father. I had to see that the gentleness and meekness that God was calling me to walk in would look like Christ's meekness on earth. That femininity was not to be rejected, but enjoyed, because my distinctions were intended for the glory of God. I reckon that if God is truly good and wise, then he knew what he was doing when he created me to be a woman. He also knew what he was doing when he surprised me by allowing my first child to be a girl, despite my constant petitions and supplications for a boy. The night after the ultrasound revealed that I would be having a daughter, I wept with fear. After all, I was the one who struggled with delighting in being a woman, and now God was giving me the responsibility of raising one, of teaching this child that it is okay to be what God made her, that her femininity does not make her less than, but it makes her an image bearer with innate dignity and honor, that if God so decides that she would become the wife of someone's son, that her submission would not in fact be weakness as the culture may presume, but instead it would be her reasonable service to God, to see her children not as a burden or inconvenience, but as a blessing. And if she is called to singleness, to exhaust herself teaching women how to love God with their whole heart. Oh, how it seemed too hard a task for my wavering faith, but in Christ's faithfulness, I was reminded that he would help me, that he would help me be the woman he has called me to be, a woman redeemed by a gracious God to love him, to love her family and her community. And to this call, I am wholly convinced is a good thing. Thank you.
So we're back. What did you think about that, Jackie Hill Perry?
Wow, it's, you know, to see where she coming from, not having a father figure and kind of adapting to what she know, and all she know is hurt by a man, and she felt like she had to have a transformation as a man, being hurt. That's you know, it's kind of like all she knew. I mean, you look at a situation and look at somebody's environment, if that's all you know, you're gonna adapt to it. And it's sad that, you know, she had to do that, not having a man in her life and being hurt early in her early years by a daddy. It stuck with her, and I just think it's, you know, it's really sad, especially for if you got daughters, you know, feeling like she have to be the dominant one and try to be a man the best, because that's in her mind. That's all exactly. She's hurt, and that's all she know.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty much what Deacon Dorsey has said. I noticed that the things that she was taught as a child, that men are strong, women are weak, that hit her head, and because of her pain, she wanted to take the role of leadership. She wanted to be the strong one, and I think my daughter is like that. You know, unfortunately, I think men, we do so much damage to our young women. You know, we hurt them, we rape them, we molest them, we talk down to them, we curse them, we don't be there to support them, we don't lift them up and let them know that you're a beautiful black woman, a black girl. We, you know, and all of this stuff that they're feeding on drives them away from that man, which is really her protector. But now he's not her protector, but he has become her adversary, if you will.
And it's it's deep, the way you feel like she was, you know, it was okay to have a man as a friend, but when it trying to get to the next level, she felt like it was distrust. You know, that's really the core issue
And
that's
it's
deep down
like,
inside.
Where
you
does
know?
it end and where does it begin?
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's hard because even in our culture, you know, Bishop, I'm hearing what you're saying about young girls and how they're treated by men. But when you see women who don't allow themselves to be treated like that,
Right.
Exactly.
men don't even know how to respond to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you set yourself up as
A
I
strong
am a
black woman.
I know who I am, I know who God created
I know
me to
how I'm
be.
supposed to be
I
treated.
know how I'm supposed to be treated. I won't settle for less.
Exactly.
Society won't even. They don't even know how to
Right.
respond to you. Those are the women who don't.
Yeah.
You know, like
Right.
what you're not gonna do what everybody else is doing.
That's what we were
I
saying
want that.
earlier.
Yeah.
You know, a woman, you know, ABC. You gonna do this, you gonna do that.
But
That's the way it's supposed to be.
I think that the man has the problem.
Mm-hmm.
The woman don't have the problem. It's the man. Because if you're a strong black woman, and I don't want to be bothered with you,
Exactly.
there's something in me.
That's not.
You understand?
Yeah.
That I feel like I might not meet your expectations, or you have an education. I'm a garbage man. You know, and a lot of times we take that as being less valued. You know, and it's there are a lot of strong black women. You know, like yourself. You know, like my wife and others. But the man has not learned yet to embrace that.
Yeah.
You understand? And he looks at it as something to fear rather than embracing it.
And I think what Bishop is saying, that's 100%. A lot of men don't like when a woman try to tell them something. And like you said, you know, y'all might have the same idea, but your idea might be, you know, I might say, let's do it this way. And my wife might be like, well, you know, honey, we can do it this way. It might be a little bit better.
I've been there.
And, you know, and I can
Bishop
say,
notorious for that.
Exactly.
No, woman, we're gonna.
and I got to go back and apologize.
Yeah.
We should have did it your way. I was
That's
wrong.
right.
Yep.
And you know, like I talked to Bishop, he been in the game a long time.
Yeah.
Like, Bishop, I shouldn't have did that. He was like, well, son, no, you shouldn't have did that. You was wrong. So, you know, I go back, you know, apologize, but I'm learning. And you know, like you said, the man don't have to be the dominant one. You know, you work together, you got a strong black woman. It's okay. You know, it's not like you taking a back seat.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's why you got a partner.
And
it's
that
all right.
woman who has all that stuff, she's only interested in your character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's not interested in what you. She
Exactly.
can pay her bills.
Right.
She's just interested in your character.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's looking for the complimentary set to whatever
Right,
God gave her.
right.
Mm-hmm.
She not. She don't care. I mean,
Exactly.
I don't want to smell no garbage man, so don't call me.
Well, you know, that was just a,
I know Bishop, but you know your niece.
you know,
He gonna take a shower.
he cleared
Get off
himself
work.
up.
Get off work.
Bishop, you know your niece. You will not be performing no way to send me no garbage man. I'm gonna say that now.
She don't want rock.
But yeah, I can understand that. You don't want to devalue yourself. either.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, I'm clear. Are we? Is that T? Okay, you ready to do the letter? T, hey baby,
Hey, Miss Lady, how are you?
what's going on?
You know, same old, same old. The world's gone crazy. You know how it is.
So, gentlemen, T calls in every Monday at 4 o'clock. She's in Indianapolis, and so she calls in live to give us the news. So, T, I have some gentlemen from my church today, and we're talking about what makes a man.
Right, I was listening.
Yeah. So, some interesting little nuggets coming about today. What do you have for us, T?
So while we're talking about what makes a man, I thought that was actually a perfect subject to be on while I grieve and wonder who killed Darren Seals.
Yes.
I don't know how many people have paid attention or seen the news about the young man Darren Seals. If I'm not mistaken, he was 29 years old. He was very, very prominent in the Ferguson protests when they jumped off back in August of 2014. In fact, on the night that the No True Bill was delivered for Darren Wilson, and on the news they showed, you know, his mother's reaction. The cameras were on his mother, and there was a gentleman that she was hugging when they announced that there would be no charges. That was Darren Seals. He was very, very prominent. I didn't know him personally. I've been in the same space that he's been in. We never have had a conversation personally. But I went I went to St. Louis this weekend. Most people know that's where I'm from. I was born in St. Louis. And so when I got the news, this happened on Tuesday, and he was found shot, excuse me, one gunshot wound to the head and a burning car on Tuesday morning. So I had been planning to go to St. Louis anyway, and then like throughout the week, you know how it goes, I'm tired and it's been a long week, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna stay home. Well, then when this news of Darren Seals came down, I decided I needed to be back home with my family. So, yeah, so that's what we know, is that he was killed. The police claim that they're investigating it as a homicide, and I say claim that they are because I actually visited the site where his car was found burning while I was in St. Louis. And I'm told by the people that, number one, the site was never, you know how they sectioned it off with the crime tape. They never sectioned off the crime scene. There was evidence. There's still evidence right now on the ground that was never collected. So I don't know how hard they're investigating if they're not collecting the evidence. I will say that Darren Seals is the sixth man since August of 2014 to be killed in this manner. So I'm not sure if, you know, I don't know. I feel like it should be getting more media coverage than it is, because either there's a serial killer in St. Louis who's killing people this way. You know, something's going on. Yeah. I feel like the fact that the police failed to collect evidence leads me to believe that they know more than what they're saying that they know.
Yeah.
And I'll also say that I said there were 6 men that have been killed since August of 2014, which was when Mike Brown was killed. There's been 6 men killed in this exact same manner since then. One of them, the first one was DeAndre Joshua, who was killed the night that the No True Bill was delivered.
Okay, I remember.
And he was shot and killed and burned in a car on Canfield Drive in the same area where Mike Brown was killed. This is actually where Darren Seals was killed, is also very, very close to where Mike Brown was killed. One of the 6 men that have been killed in this manner since August of 2014, his name is Terrell Beasley. His particular case is actually now a confirmed officer-involved shooting. Now, how it went from him being shot by a police officer to being burned in a car, they're not explaining that correlation, but it is a confirmed officer-involved shooting. You can Google it and find the information yourself. The officer's name is Don McGee. He was actually sentenced to 2 years on weapons charges last summer, that officer. In the shooting of Terrell Beasley, he was killed, but his friend who was with him was actually charged with his murder, because basically they're saying that, well, they were committing a crime together, and so as a result, since he lived, he's responsible for the death, even though it's a confirmed officer-involved shooting.
Yeah,
so St. Louis is a mess.
Oh my God.
Basically.
So T, before you move
what
on,
I wanted.
T,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Before you move on to anything else, I want, because these are men of ministry, okay? You posted something that Darren said, and it was his own words about if he died, how he wanted to be remembered and buried, and he had some really pointed words about how and why he did not want the church to be involved at all. Can you speak to that post that you made?
Yeah, I can. So they were his words that I posted. And basically where he was coming from with that is that, so when the incident happened with Mike Brown, he lived several blocks away from where that happened. So he found out relatively quickly, within the hour, he found out that it happened. He was on Canfield Drive pretty much immediately, way before the news ever knew what was going on. So, we all saw it after, by 7 days later, a week later, people are coming from all over, the world to Canfield Drive. But the original uprising was the people, the people in St. Louis, in that area. They weren't activists, they weren't protesters. These are real people. So after that original, after that week, and people start, pouring in, you all of a sudden got all of these activists. You got clergy from different places. And you can actually look up how, he had some pretty strong critiques about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Mm-hmm.
And there were clergy who were, a part of that, where he felt that people were coming from outside, clergy included, and basically co-opting, this uprising that they had started. So once all these people started pouring in, and then consequently money started pouring in, that all of a sudden people were more concerned about fame and name recognition, and not the original reason why they were there, which was for justice for Mike Brown. And there's videos. I actually I posted a video on my Tee Dizzle page just today. It was a interview that he did back in February with a man named Shea Black. And he speaks about it in depth. He doesn't mention clergy specifically in that interview, but he basically just felt like, that people were coming there and co-opting the movement with their agenda, and not listening to the people who were on the ground in the first place and what their concerns were. So all of a sudden it became about, like I said, money, name recognition. The church wasn't in the streets, when Mike Brown was shot, is how he felt about it. But now you want to come and tell us to be peaceful. And he wasn't trying to hear that. He was a real person. You know what I'm saying? This is a real man. He says he was like a human being. And this is somebody who originally was from the streets. I actually found out, I didn't know this, but I actually found out that one of my cousins, Darren, was like a brother to him. My cousin, he's in heating and cooling. That's what he does for a living. And he had just been over to his mother's house a couple of days earlier and hooked up a stove for her. And he just was talking to me about how this was a real person who originally, he was a street dude. But he had come around and he was working. He was hard working. He had a job. He worked 6 days a week. He was taking care of his mother, who was very ill. She was on dialysis. And then he had a little brother who was 14. But yeah, he I think was very disillusioned by people in general, not necessarily the church specifically, but certainly that was a part of it, that he felt like many of the people that he had come in contact with the church in regards to Ferguson, he felt like we're fake and we're just kind of there for the money and the recognition. So, yeah, this family, my cousin was telling me that their family actually has it's a huge family, but that there's actually very few men in the family, and Darren was one of them. He was kind of a cornerstone in that family, and so he'll definitely be missed. And now, his little brother was living with him and he was supporting his mom, and now that's gone. It's really sad. It's heartbreaking. I didn't realize, like I said, I've never met this man. And I didn't realize how hurt I was until I got to the site where the car and his body had burned. And
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, it's really, really heavy. I had some serious cleansing tears that I didn't even know were there. And then, so I'm just going to say it. I think the police are behind it. He since August of 2014, he's been pulled over regularly. But I also shared a video, I don't know if you saw it, where he was pulled over on June 7th of this year. and somebody just happened to, they saw the police pull him over, and so they stopped and pulled over and went live. During that time, he and his brother, his 14-year-old brother at the time, his brother's 15 now, but at the time he was 14, are yanked out of the car. I think Darren said he was pulled out by his hair. They both slammed on the ground and handcuffed, and they searched his car illegally because he didn't give them consent to search. And they're questioning this man about the things that he's posting on Facebook. They questioned him about being at a Trump rally protesting, which isn't against the law, and told him that he needed to choose his enemies better. These are Darren Seals' words on Facebook Live. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. When I got to St. Louis on Friday night, I hit up my sister, who's very, very active still, because, people are still protesting. They're not talking about it on the news, but people are definitely still protesting, still shutting stuff down.
That's what they want you to think.
I'm sorry?
I said, if you were watching the news, you'd think that everybody went home and got over it.
No, yeah, they're still protesting. So I got there Friday night, and I called my sister when I got to town. She told me where to meet her. And it was a group of maybe 25, 30 people when I got there on Friday evening. So we met at this gas station in the Loop, which is an area kind of like y'all are in Atlanta, similar to like Little Five Points in Atlanta.
Okay.
So we get down there, and we're all just kind of hanging out, talking, like trying to figure out what the move is for the night. Within probably 30 minutes of me getting there, there were between 7 and 10 police cars with about 2 to a car on the lot. They had shut down the gas station. Now, we're not even doing anything. We're not protesting. We're standing there talking. But that speaks to, I guess, the level of surveillance that's happening and how much they don't want people. It's the reason why people are flipping out, because people are taking a knee during, the national anthem. I mean, it's crazy. The amount of oppression and suppression is crazy. And the last thing they want is for people to know about what's going on. So, yeah, I'm trying to think, is there anything that I missed when it comes to Darren Seals? I don't know if I said already that since Mike Brown's St. Louis police have shot a black man every single month, at least one a month, since Mike Brown. Now, mind you, that's 2 years ago. The most recent, his name is Michael Thompson. That happened on September 2nd of this year. And that doesn't include, like I said, the ones that I feel that the police know exactly who killed Darren Seals. So the corruption exists in every institution. We know it's all around the United States, and particularly in St. Louis. All of the municipal leadership, from the governor down. And what's crazy is these are Democrats in St. Louis. The governor of Missouri is a Democrat. Bob McCullough, the prosecutor who engineered the No True Bill for Darren Wilson, is a Democrat. He's been the prosecutor for 20 years. So, when we talk about the election, and you and I have talked many a times about the election and what that means. But obviously voting Democrat is not the answer, not without expecting something in return, because all of these people are Democrats. And in fact, on September 16th, this Friday, there's going to be a special election held because they just found some voter fraud in the most recent election there in Missouri. So there's a guy, his name is Bruce Franks Jr. What is he running for? not Senate. If you give me a second, I'll be able to tell you what he's running for. But anyway, he's running against the incumbent, Penny Hubbard. And long story short, the Hubbard family has been running things in the political realm in St. Louis for a long time. And Bruce Franks and his crew just uncovered election fraud, voter fraud. So a judge has reviewed it and basically said, yeah, there's something shaky going on, and they're actually having a special election on September 16th. But, you know, will it help? Who knows? St. Louis is a mess, y'all.
Well, we appreciate you for staying on top of it, T. And hopefully you'll go live with some more stuff, because I know that wasn't it.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said we appreciate everything that you do, and we hope that you'll go live with some more stuff, because I know that wasn't it.
Right.
I know that wasn't it. But you keep me abreast of everything. So I just appreciate everything that you do for our community. I really do.
Yeah, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share it with people who may not know.
Thank you, sis. So we'll see you.
Yes, ma'am.
Next Monday, live back in here, inside the sanctuary, inside the Whirlwind.
You know it.
All right, Tee Dizzle, love you, girl.
All right, love you, sis. Peace.
Okay, sanctuary family, we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, I guess it's just be me and Bae talking about manhood. That should be interesting. We'll be right back.
This is crazy important.
In the